Okay, and we're live. Good afternoon. A pleasant afternoon to every one of you who are our participants in Zoom and to those of you who are viewing us in FB Live. So, this is Irish Malonda, and I'll be your host today again. Our topic today is leadership in time of quarantine, how to manage and develop remote teams. So, it's another e learning session for you guys, but before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to greet our out of the country participants first. We have participants from Singapore, from Bangkok, Thailand. We have 16 participants from Malaysia. They are from Kuala Lumpur, Sabah, Johor Bahru, Pulau Pinang, Malaysia, Pahang, Malaysia, Sarawak, Malaysia, and Selangor. We also have participants from Doha, Qatar. Thank you for joining us. From Phnom Penh, Cambodia, Mauritius, South Africa, Gujarat, Vadodara, India, Uttar Pradesh, India, United Arab Emirates. We also have someone from Macedonia, Sydney, Australia, Sunnyvale, California, El Salvador, and Boston, United States. Okay, and before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to say some few house rules first. In order for our e-learning session smooth and successful, we have a 2 to 3 minute coffee break. This will be after the presentation of our speaker and before we move on to the question and answer. For the question and answer guidelines, participants' microphones will be temporarily disabled by the administrator during discussion to avoid interruptions. Questions will be entertained after each topic of the session rather. For questions and clarifications during the provided time after each topic, click raise button for the administrator to enable the microphone for live questions. Questions may also be given via chat. One question at a time will be entertained. For comments and feedback, please scan this QR code and send us your feedback for our future e-learning sessions. And now I'm ready to introduce our speaker. Our speaker is a proud Filipino winner of the hit Asian reality TV show, The Apprentice Asia. For winning the show, he served for 1 year as Chief of Staff of Air Asia, reporting directly to Malaysian business mogul Tony Fernandez based in Kuala Lumpur. Born and raised in Manila, he is a multi-awarded marketer and HR professional with over 10 years of experience in the Southeast Asia. Dubbed as the Asia's millennial guru and the world's widest motivational and marketing speaker. He is the Asia's leading motivational speaker on topics involving leadership, talent development of Gen Y workers, and office productivity. He is the founder and managing director of his marketing consultancy firm, the JY Consultancy and Ventures, which offers marketing and talent optimization services to startups and Fortune 500 companies in Asia. Without further ado, that is all. Again, welcome Mr. Jonathan Yabut.
Hello, good afternoon,
Hi,
everyone.
John.
Good afternoon,
Hello again.
Thank you for the kind introduction. I am so excited to see you guys again. So we've had a great session yesterday. Our session was about how to manage your visibility, especially from a work from home arrangement. And today, our session is designed for leaders and managers who now have the challenge of having to remotely manage your employees. And when I say remotely, that means not only having to involve the technological rigors of talking to someone on WhatsApp or let's say Zoom, but also managing even the psychological and sometimes even the personal and financial needs of your employees as well. So our topic for today, and by the way, before I start, I want to get the energy of everyone in this room. Could you please type an exclamation point just so I get to see the energy of everyone in the room?
They are all here, John.
Can I see that? Okay, very good. I get to see a lot of exclamation point. The others are even multiple exclamation points. Very good. So thank you. So if you're also interested, by the way, some of our webinars that we've done in the past are available in my link. Of course, Ariva Academy is also going to be sending you a copy of the downloads of the handouts of this session. So you can contact Irish and the rest of the team, and they will be sharing some information also later. And just a quick introduction about my company. So we partner with Ariva Academy. My company is called JY Consultancy and Ventures. We've been in town for quite some time, since 2015. So we manage both marketing services. We cater to different companies in providing social media services, influencers, for example, in Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. At the same time, we also offer soft skills talent management. So that involves conducting workshops on public speaking, leadership, how to manage the millennials, our bestseller. And of course, lately, since we've all been locked down in our own homes, we've been busy doing our webinars for the public as well. These are some of the clients that we've had in the past. We take pride of having conducted them not only in the Philippines, but also all around the world, as far as Buenos Aires in Argentina and as far as New York in United States. Lastly, sorry, Irish, for this last plug. We're doing one more, our first ever talk show this coming Wednesday, 9 p.m. It's going to be on my Facebook fan page. And it's a talk show called Career Helpline. Since a lot of you guys have been bombarding my emails about, which is a good thing, by the way, I'm happy to get all of them. It gives me so much company. About your career issues, whether it's about quitting your job, how do you prepare for COVID-19, etc. We want to dedicate a 1-hour talk show every Wednesday, 9 p.m. And so if you guys are interested, it's going to happen tomorrow on my Facebook fan page. And if you see that slide there, that's my link to my Facebook fan page. All right. Finally, if you have any burning itching questions, you will raise them in this session, hopefully. But if you're still shy, you can still send those questions to my email address. That's jonathan.yabut@jycdasia.com. And if you guys are taking photos of this session or taking videos of it, please do tag me on Instagram or Facebook, because I will steal them so I can post them in my accounts as well. Prepare to engage in the following activities. Number one, I'm going to be asking you guys to do a chat box session. So if you have any comments, even if, let's say, I'm not asking anyone to raise questions, please do type them. It makes the chat box more social, right? We don't want the chat box to be lonely for the rest of the hour. So if you have any aha moment, for example, please do type them. Number two, we're going to be flashing on screen a poll in which we get to see the answers of everyone in percentages, which is very good, because in real life scenario, we only get people raising their hands. This one is more technological. So we get to see the numbers of how many people out of the 331 participants as of the moment are for A, B, C, and D. And of course, we're going to be dedicating a certain time for a question and answer later on. Okay, here is my first poll. If you guys are ready, please type in your answer now. When was the last time that you had an alignment with your manager? All right, your manager first, your manager, not your direct report. All right, see people backtrack their answers. All right, that's very good. This week or about to do this week, I see a lot of people saying that. Very good. My diagnosis is that if you're about to do something this week, it's either because it's the first week of the month, which means it's the time of the month to do it, or I would be very happy because the ideal situation is, especially in today's times when communication is very limited, it would be great to have those sessions once a week. And yesterday in my session about visibility, ideally, if you don't get to connect with your manager too often, it's great to schedule that so you don't get to forget about it. All right, very good. Thank you. So I'm going to close this now. All right. Thank you, Jeff, by the way, for sharing those results. Now, let me proceed to the next slide. And here's where I want to show you guys. Wait a minute. Let me share my screen again. There you go. Give me 30 seconds for this. Let me just configure my slides again. There we go. All right. I'm going to start with this discussion with the definition of leadership. And I'm going to allude it with one of my favorite ever metaphors of all time, which is fire. If you guys notice, fire has 3 elements in which if one of the elements does not exist, fire is not going to be sustainable. The 3 things are, can I see in your chat box, by the way, can you make a guess? What are those 3 elements? Could you please type it? All right. I see some people saying air. Probably you mean oxygen. What else? Fuel. And finally, very good, we also have heat. So these are the 3 elements of fire. If one of them does not exist, fire is not going to exist. If one of them exists but is not sustainable, meaning after quite some time it dies down, fire will spark, but it will not prolong for a period of time. So what you want for fire to continue burning and being in flame is that you have to have all ingredients. The same thing happens for leadership. Leadership needs the following elements to sustain a great amount of influence. Number one, we call that as commanding, the ability to set goals, the ability to enforce discipline, a healthy amount of I like you, but I'm also somehow respect you and I'm afraid of you, if you get what I mean. And the idea here is because when you are commanding, people respect you and people think twice before they say something to you, or perhaps before they do an action that may not benefit the rest of the team. So that's commanding. But commanding isn't enough. Commanding is just the part that enforces discipline. The same light, we also want leaders who are equipping. Equipping meaning, number one, day one at work, were you able to give the laptop and the phone of your direct reports? Equipping meaning, when the person got hired, did he get the fair amount of compensation that was promised to him by HR? Or equipping such as, for example, did you align that in the next 3 years or 5 years, if this employee becomes good and becomes excellent in what he does, he is promised to advance the ranks, and here are the options for his career, for example. That's equipping. And finally, can you make a guess? Can someone type in the screen? What do you think is the third one? So first one is commanding. The second is equipping. What could be the third one? And this is very important, guys, because no matter how people respect you and no matter how you provide them something, if this element is missing, you're not necessarily a leader. You could be just a manager, or you could be a dictator, or you could just be someone that they're afraid of, for example. Anyone? Can someone type it in the chat? All right. I'm not getting the right answer. Okay, I think malapit. This one's almost near. Charming. Okay, yes. So the answer is influencing. That's right, guys. So influencing. Influencing, for example, is the ability of an individual to be able to share motivation, challenge, to be able to convince someone that here are the tasks and we need to achieve it by Thursday or Friday. Please make sure it gets sent on time. And I always say this, guys. You may be commanding, you may be equipping, but if people don't like working with you, you can't get things done with a team. I want to flip the coin because the same thing also happens if you are influencing and if you are equipping, but people do not respect you. Either it's because of your attitude or let's say your charm and you're not commanding enough, people might take advantage of how generous or kind you are to them. Similarly, you may be commanding, you may be influencing, but you didn't train your people enough. You don't like the concept of mentoring. You don't equip them with the right tools and technology. People may be afraid of you or people may like you, but they can't get the job done. You need to possess all the three elements in order for you to be called as a leader. So I want you guys to please hold an imaginary dart, and I want you guys to pin it on the screen. As a leader today, regardless if you have 5 direct reports or managing a workforce of 200, do you get to have all the 3 elements in place? And if you think that there's one element that you don't possess yet, what could that be? If you have 2 of them, or perhaps you have 3 of them that are missing, that's fine. We still love you. But your goal now is to identify what are the next steps in order for you to become a great leader. Here's the caveat. What I shared to you a while ago is just leadership in general. The challenge now is that leadership is going to pivot when you have a workforce that is working from home. And in this case, I want to share what are the 3 pillars of remote work leadership. So a while ago, the 3 things that we shared in the triangle, they still do exist, but they need to be added with 3 more additional elements. The first one is that leaders, more than anything else at this time of remote work, need to be more visible. Visibility meaning, do you make your people feel psychologically safe? That even if they don't see you, they know at the back of their mind, he's there for me. She's got my back. If something happens to me, I know that my manager will take good care of me. That's visibility. And this is my personal opinion, but I highly discourage folks who are leaders who say, nope, As long as I get my job done, I don't need to be present for them. I don't need them to ask where I am or what am I doing right now, because the numbers will speak for themselves. Yes, the numbers can speak for themselves, but remember that you're not talking to robots. You're talking to human beings, and we are visual people. We are sensual people. We thrive by being able to touch, feel, smell, and see others in order to feel that their company is also present. And for that reason, your visibility matters. I'm not talking about knocking on other people's doors and say, hey, I'm here. That's the literal definition of that. Visibility is making sure that you have a minimum amount of communication between you and your team, whether it's one-on-one or it's versus a group. The second is empowerment. So here's where, now that you don't see each other often, can your teams make decisions on their own? Or are they paralyzed such that whenever you're not around, because probably you don't have the right internet connection, you probably were sleeping or something happened to you and your family and your team doesn't know where you are, they get paralyzed because they don't know that they can make decisions on their own because they're afraid and scared that I have to ask permission first before I push the button. And so because he's not around, I will not push any button at all, even if the most logical thing to do is to push a certain button. That's empowerment. Finally, number 3, we want to talk about accountability. And may I remind everyone, this is something that you will expect to be lacking in the next 2 or 3 months, because whenever projects fail in remote work situations, people are going to be pointing fingers to each other, right? So here's where, as a leader, I'm going to ask you, if things go wrong given this new setup we're in, we don't get to see each other every day. I don't get to nudge you. I don't get to have lunch with you on a daily basis. Will you still stand up for your team? Will you take accountability, and will you bear the brunt that if one of your teammates did something wrong, you also take it up to your accountability that you were responsible for it because you were the mentor and the last signatory in that document? And great leaders in times of remote work arrangements are accountable to their teams. All right? I want you guys again to hold your imaginary dart, pin it again on the screen, and ask yourself, which of these 3 elements do I think I possess today? And which of them do I think I need to work on in order for me to be able to engage my teams? Because for all we know, guys, in most countries around the world today, our quarantine, so in the Philippines, we call it as ECQ. In Malaysia, we call it as MCO. Whatever you call it, it's going to be extended now till end of the month. And therefore, your remote work leadership is essential more than ever. All right? Could you please type it on your screen? Which item do you think of all the 3 is something that you need to work on? Is it visibility, empowerment, accountability? Can you type it? All right. I see some people typing, okay, visibility, empowerment. Empowerment meaning the opposite of it is you're a micromanager. Micromanager meaning every morning you want an 8 o'clock meeting, or every morning you want your folks to be online on Skype or on Zoom, and that you want to see them, their yellow, green bars lighting up because they are already awake, for example. So it depends on your style, but we want a good balance of that. All right. And therefore, because we are now in prolonged quarantine, emphasis on prolonged, because we were supposed to be expecting to be out by April 15, but of course, we're going to be expecting a longer time. My bet, this is my personal bet, is that people are only going to be confident to sip their hot cup of coffee at Starbucks by May 15, even if we're going to be released by May 1. That's how I see it. I hope not, but realistically, with how the numbers are showing. Anyway, so prolonged quarantine will challenge our leaders. There are going to be issues today when you have a remote work. Number 1, employees' needs are no longer technical needs. They are also inclusive of personal needs. Because at the end of the day, guys, your employee will not be able to perform her duties if she's more concerned about her family's safety. And this is the natural order of humanity. I will take care first of myself or my family before I take good care of someone else, right? Number 2, communication is never going to be the same. Before, you can easily move your chair and call someone beside you, before you can invite someone for lunch at the cafeteria, before you can bump into the vice president of your company at the water dispenser in the pantry. Those things are now erased. They do not exist. We always are going to have an extra layer of communication platform before we get to reach someone. And therefore, if this is the case, and I also mentioned this in our session yesterday, you now have less frequent time to mentor your people. You now have lesser time to delegate your people. And for someone who's been doing this for quite a few years now, so I manage a remote team and we've been working since 2015. There are many moments in my life wherein I wish I could just talk to someone and say things naturally from my tongue versus taking an extra time to type it on WhatsApp. And for all we know, WhatsApp takes longer time. You have to manage your grammar. You have to delete typographical errors. And those things can be irritating. But this is the situation that we have today in the prolonged quarantine. Finally, number 3, you as a leader will now have limitations on how you evaluate your employees. So for example, come June and July, when we have our annual evaluation appraisal, or for some of you, it's going to happen in December or January, it's now hard to evaluate our employees based on their behaviors because we do not get to physically see them. And there's danger to that because the longer you do not see someone physically, the higher is the chance that you will reinterpret or misinterpret their actions based on what you only see about them. And that's really unfair for anyone who's going to be judged because you don't know the entire story why he submitted a report late. You will not now know the entire story of why he wasn't able to hit his sales quota for next week. You will not be able to know why, for example, he's not talking to other members of the team. And most of the time, this will only be surfacing into the picture if you deliberately ask your employees. For that reason, managers today, moving forward, will only see the output as their basis of their evaluation and not so much of the behaviors. And may I remind you, in your appraisal documents, most of the time, we have 2 criteria. You have your technical performance and you have your behavioral performance. This part likely will suffer if you don't take that extra time to constantly communicate to your employees. So if your direct report fails, my question now is, could you totally blame her for it when you don't even know the entire picture? Did you investigate enough? Just because you did not see her in real life, did you ask the right questions to ask her? I noticed in the email that you did not send the right information to the client when he asked for it. Could you please tell me why? Could we set up a telecon for it? Those things are going to be more difficult now because in the past, we can just easily nudge someone and say, hey, let's go to the room and discuss something privately. Can you give me 5 minutes? So those were the times of easier mentoring and easier evaluation. These things are now luxury and they are wiped out from our picture. And therefore, times are challenging for leaders. All right? So how do we now engage our own direct reports from a remote work perspective? And one way I'd like to share this is by recalling my favorite pyramid from Maslow. This is the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you guys notice, at the bottom of the pyramid are the most basic intrinsic animal essentials that humans need. And at the top of the pyramid are the most advanced things that people will ask for after they've already consumed the essential parts. The idea behind Maslow is that you cannot help other people if you yourself still has issues about food, shelter, belonging, etc. You can only help other people if you have helped yourself. So at the bottom of the pyramid, you have food, water. What else do you think is an essential, especially in today's quarantine times? Wi-Fi, right? Can you imagine quarantine time with no internet? Right? So you elevate next to the safety needs, security, safety, belongingness. You're no longer hungry. You have a great office. There's great air conditioning. You have a good set of income that allows you to enjoy life. The moment you start getting all of those, you become more advanced to your demands. And these demands include, do I have friends in the office? Does my manager praise me and reward me whenever I've achieved something? And finally, at the top of the pyramid, when you've accomplished all of them, You're this cup of coffee that is so full that you have no choice but to graduate into a bigger cup, into a bigger jug, for example, right? So your goal is you're now self-actualized. You want to share what you have with other people because you have so much already in life, right? This is the ordinary Maslow's hierarchy of needs for humans. We have the same thing that is the equivalent when it comes to remote work. So here is my version in our company. We call this as the employee's hierarchy of needs, work from home edition. So at the bottom of the pyramid are the tools. Are your people equipped to work from home? How fast is the internet connection? Has the company provided those internet connection if they are situated in a province, for example, where an internet connection is not reliable? Have they been properly trained how to use Zoom? Have they been properly trained how to use Slack? If the company, for example, is using Slack, you cannot burden people to do things on their own. If you want them to be performing to be at their best, you have to equip them as well. After tools would be ways of working. Now that they have the right tools to get things done, the next question you want to ask is, do we have an agreed time and frequency of communicating? Small things such as, for example, how can I call you often? Is it okay that we use WhatsApp as our main mode of communication? Can we create a WhatsApp group? Or I noticed that there's another group out there who's using Viber instead. Can we use Viber instead, or can we use WhatsApp? And for a lot of us here who come from different countries, you may be familiar that WhatsApp is the #1 messaging platform in the world. But in other parts of the world, other platforms like Telegram, Viber, or WeChat are based on the location of where you are. Small things can irritate other people if you're not even aligned to what kind of messaging platforms will everyone be using, right? That's number 2. Number 3, visibility. And here's where I ask, do you know the workload and what is the impact of your team members to the organization? Small things such as, do you know that your direct report, Anna, is working simultaneously on 7 projects and you still keep on dumping work to her, but you forgot that she has 7 projects and she's shy to say those things to you, and now she's overloaded, and now you blame her for not being able to keep up with her own projects. Visibility means that you have the bird's eye view of what's happening among all of your team members, down to their progress, down to their challenges, down to anticipating, for example, that if 2 of your team members are in the province who may not have the best internet connection, then it might be useful not to assign or delegate them tasks that will require the most intensive amount of internet. That's visibility. And then you have belonging. So you notice, guys, now the needs are becoming less material. They're becoming more emotional. They're becoming more abstract. The next one is belonging. Even if I don't see the rest of my team members, do I feel that I'm still part of the team? We're all human beings. We're social creatures. It is our natural tendency because the chemicals in our body, the oxytocin, for example, pushes us to look for people who we think will care for us, even if it doesn't involve physical touch. Just the fact that someone cares for us, for example, is something that we crave for. So the next question now is, as a leader, what are you doing to making sure that that solid gel, that mighty bond that you have established 3 years ago does not chip off just because everyone is now working at home? Finally, at the top of the pyramid is what we call as empowerment. And I love this part because this is the biggest issue that we have. And the question is, even if you don't see your direct reports that often, do you trust that they will do their job well? Do you trust that while you guys are asking them to watch a webinar with Jonathan Yabut, they are not watching another episode of Money Heist Season 4 because they're watching it for the sake of proving that they've watched the webinar? Small things like those. And empowerment is tricky because you can only start trusting a person if the person has also established credibility, that their job is going to be predictable. All right? So again, hold your imaginary dart. I hope you don't lose that dart, guys, because we're going to be using it for the rest of the session. pin it again on the screen and ask yourself, in my team today as a leader, where do I think my team falls into? Are we still in the stage wherein we've only accomplished the tools? Are we in the stage wherein we are good in the visibility? Or are we in the stage wherein we've covered every base and we are in the stage of empowerment? And if you are at the top, I'd be very happy because that means you guys are highly, highly actualized. And perhaps you're an organization wherein you've been doing remote work for many months or many years. Could you please type? I just want to see some reactions from people. Could you please type which part of the pyramid do you guys fall into today? Is it tools, ways of working, visibility, belonging? Like, I'll give you an example. In my organization, my company, I think that we still have a lot of space to work on. And so we're only in between belonging and visibility, right? I always feel that if I have a tendency to micromanage my team, then I feel that I'm still not in that level of empowerment. All right. So some people are saying that they're in the ways of working. Some people say that they're still in the tools. And if you guys are still in the stage of the tools, that's predictable, that's acceptable, because we never predicted that this was going to happen. A lot of us were still operating on the assumption that our daily life was home, office, home. But after COVID-19, things are going to be permanently different. Everyone is going to be more paranoid now and say we always need to have a contingency plan in case another pandemic happens. All right. Very good. Let's do another poll. Let's show another poll. Question number 2. When was the last time that you had the career discussion with your direct report? Okay. So this time my question is, a while ago, it was between you and your manager. This time, it's you and your team members. Guys, you have to be honest. You cannot give me the most ideal answers, please, because that will not help you at all. This is all about reflecting and saying that I have space to work on. Okay. For folks who are watching on Facebook Live, just so you get an idea, one of the benefits of joining the Zoom is that you get to participate in the poll. So you may not be seeing some people doing it now or the results, but here the results will be last month, 32%. That's the biggest one. More than 3 months ago, 31%. Wow. Okay, so this is not a very happy poll, guys. And here's where I'm going to challenge you. If you haven't been that frequent, you might want to reconsider being more frequent at this time. I get it. It's an extra chunk of work for a manager because you have other things to do. And now you also have mentoring sessions. And now you also have this other meetings. I get that. But remember, we're not wasting time here. We are investing. The more you invest that trust and visibility, the more things will get smoother later on. All right. Thank you. Let's proceed now. Okay, so I think the winner, the clear winner is 33%. All right. All right. Before I go for the next step, the next part, which is the next steps, let me do a quick Q&A. And maybe Irish, you can help me about this. We're going to pick out one question from any. So we've talked about the basics of leadership and remote work. Anyone who would like to raise a question?
I have a question here, John.
Yep, go ahead.
So this question is from House of Representatives. I won't mention the name though. Advisable software from managing team meetings, data for sharing, data for soft copy submission.
All right, I'll share that later on, but the number one would be Google Drive. And for me, Google Drive is not something that you should even be recommending in 2020. Google Drive is very 2017 for me. It's very 2016, but it remains to be the gold standard. And what I like about Google Drive, I'll mention this later on, is that without even asking your employees, you get to track the timestamp that people access and submit silos. And you don't want that to happen because it's hard to penetrate other groups. You have to agree that the company is going to accredit or approve only one video conferencing. It could be Skype for business. It could be video conferencing, let's say, for example, via Zoom. Or you can also do your Facebook Live and your Facebook at work. Okay. All right. All good. So thank you. We'll get more questions later on. Let me now proceed. So here's the second half. John, what are the next steps? How do I now? Give me practical tips that I can immediately apply in the field when it comes to managing remote teams. First, please redefine your definition of equipping the employee. So I've brushed this a while ago. And when I say equipping the employee, it is no longer about giving them a cubicle, their laptop, their phone, but equipping the employee means making sure that they are trained. The first one is the remote technology needs. So I can never emphasize, guys, that if you need to ask for budget for HR, that we need to get a paid account for Zoom. And I'm not here to sell any video conferencing platform because you have the power to choose any. If you're using Microsoft Teams, that's also fine. But may I remind you, the bigger your organization is, the more you will need a paid account, because most free accounts can only limit to a certain amount of people and certain amount of time. Case in point, if you're using Zoom, Zoom free and basic accounts will only allow 40 minutes of video conferencing if you are a group of 3 people and above. If you're using it to call each other for only 2 people, it's unlimited time. But for 3 and up, it will be cut into 40 minutes. And what do? You need to get a basic account. So if you might ask, how much is the basic? How much is the pro account? The pro account is around $15 US. If you want to get a webinar, which Ariva Academy is using right now, it can go as high as $40 US, for example, on top of the pro account. I'm not here as a salesman, and that's not the topic for today. But my point is, if you want proper equipping of your employees, you cannot afford to scrimp on money and investing into technology. At the end of the day, you only get what you give. If you invest this amount, then don't expect your people to also give much. Number 2, I want to raise the question about financial needs. And this is where I'm not asking managers and leaders to be the one to give the money or give loans to their employees. But sometimes your employees might be shy to ask about these things. And so if they are shy, and especially in Asian setting, wherein we can be conservative in approaching other people because we don't want to lose face, our tendency is to wait for someone else to tell it to us. If that is the case and you are the manager, you have to be the one to step up to the plate and say, hi, in case you need any financial assistance, our HR department has the following options. Here is the document, here's the link, and here's where you can apply for it. If your company does not have that because the government is the one who's providing that, and your HR may not be as competent as you are, sometimes you might be the one to step up, nudge your HR and say, hey, what are you guys doing for this? Yes, last night, for example, I learned that the Malaysian government is providing 800 ringgit to be given as an allowance per employee for all SMEs. It's not going to be given directly to the employee, but it's going to be given to the business owner. And the reason for this, because it incentivizes the SME owner to not lay off their employees, right? So small things like those. And remember, guys, communication is the #1 thing that people want to have. Up to date, every 4 hours, every 6 hours, every day or every 3 days. There is psychological comfort to knowing that I know what's happening next. And part of this is knowing, can I ask for help? That I should not feel shy that I might need some help. And may I remind everyone in this session, asking for financial help by an employee is not because the employee herself may be the one asking for it. It probably is because the employee has a family and the husband was the one who got laid off. And therefore, the financial assistance is not because the employee is the one who got laid off, but in the family, they need more money. So if you're single, don't look at it from a lens of a single person. Look at it from a family perspective, and that your employees come from different walks of life. Third, emotional needs. Here's where I'm going to ask you guys that leaders are also cheerleaders. It is your responsibility and duty to make sure that not only they feel comforted when it comes to the technology, financial needs, simple things such as, hey, do you want to talk? Hey, can I ask how's your family doing? Are you able to get your groceries online? Is there something that I can help you out with? I may not be able to provide everything, but if I can ask around and network through my friends, I may be able to help you. Those small things are going to be appreciated by your employees because that is part of that visibility we were talking about a while ago. The psychological comfort that my boss has my back, that my leader is going to be there to comfort me, because I'm not a robot working and earning money alone. I'm a human being who has emotional needs. So equipping the employee is where you blur now some lines. We have to admit the fact that prior to COVID-19, the professional and personal lines may be delineated. But today, they are more likely blurred, because your employees will not be at their best if their personal needs aren't at their best as well. All right. Number 2, accept the fact that time will be looser. And I'm sure by now you guys may be noticing this. We don't get to keep track of time easily anymore, right? So a lot of us now have the ability to wake up at 10 o'clock in the morning, and some of us are still working at 6 or 7 or 9 or 10 p.m. because, hey, there is no longer that thing called commuting, the way of our lives. So time will be looser, and because that is your enemy, you have to bring back structure to your team. You have to tighten time. Things such as, for example, you need to have set agreed time for communicating, even if you don't see more. Things such as, for example, hi team, nothing changes. Remember that our work remains to be the same, 9 p.m. to 6 p.m. All right? And therefore, the structure of our team is that lunch break is going to be from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. That means, guys, that if you want someone to be available, they have all the time to free up from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock or 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. But by 2 o'clock, I expect you that if you are being called over the phone, you will be there. And I understand we all have our own personal struggles, but in April 1, by May 1, for example, things should have been starting to settle down. And so people should have lesser excuses, for example, in order for them not to be able to complete their work. I'll give you one more example. Here's one thing that I say to my employees. If I send you guys a WhatsApp message at 9 o'clock in the evening, you have all the means and rights to respond that day. Please do not be pressured to reply immediately. The only reason why I'm sending it at 9 o'clock in the evening is because I might forget the thought. It's better to send it to you now, right? So small things like this again, and I keep on saying the word small things, guys, because I want to emphasize that we take them for granted, but these are thus that when they accumulate over time, they can mean resignation of their employees because you did not talk to each other properly. So you have to put structure. You have to tell them, for example, that just because you are working at home does not mean that our working hours will now start at 10 a.m. I've had many friends wherein they start waking up at 9 o'clock and they start working at 10 o'clock, but their manager had to tell them, nope, we have to go back to the original time at 8 o'clock in the morning because our clients are also synchronized. Another example would be, in order for you to make sure they follow, when you tell them time, showcase the importance of why. Tandem it with incentives and consequences, for example. Another example would be, hi team, the finance team needs a report by tomorrow. I just want to remind you, otherwise, that we're going to be incurring a penalty rate of 5% from the client if we don't submit it on time. So this really pushes the force. And this really reminds everyone that, hey, I know that all of you are working from home, but we are strictly still business as usual. So extra hustle is needed here. You might want to remind your people that we cannot be lax, we cannot be loose, and we cannot lose that momentum as well. All right, let's do another poll. All right, if you guys are ready. Do you believe it's normal to think that employees may not be working hard enough when they are on a remote arrangement? Yes, it's normal. B, no. One should always trust the employee. And letter C, depends on who the employee is. All right. And there you have it. It is a very close fight between A and C. People are still responding. Okay. Very close. Okay, but I think I'm going to end it now. Letter A, yes, it's normal. And yes, guys, it is a human nature for us to judge people. But our responsibility is to counter and balance that judgment with rationality. The ability, guys, to think that, yes, he may be slacking off today because he's still awake or it's not doing his job well, but here's what I'm going to do to make sure that he goes back to his own performing self. Right. I also understand, guys, and I also believe that some people will be varying. Some people are really reliable because they are just so competitive. And so even if you don't need to police them, I'm going to use the word police, they are going to do their job well. Right. Okay. Number 3, halfway now. Lesser work, psychologically speaking, may mean lesser engagement. And therefore, it is your duty to keep them productive if in case the company has lesser work to do. Can you give an exclamation point on your chat box? Who here now has lesser work to do since COVID-19 happened? The amount of stress and workload, you feel like there is lesser compared to November or October last year, right? Or if you're in Zoom, could you please raise your hand? Could you please click the button? All right. I see some people, but not so much, huh? Do you guys agree that some of you even had more work to do? Perhaps because we're all now in adjustment phase. But just in case you guys aren't in that boat, all right? Just in case you guys are in the boat of not being able to accomplish so much, there are many, many ways to keep your workforce still productive. Number 1, and this is my favorite thing to do, which you guys are doing now. If your team members don't have much tasks to accomplish, now is the best time to hone their soft skills. Now is the best time to sharpen them. So send them to online workshops. And when I say send them, do not only send them randomly because you got an email from Ariva Academy. You have to schedule this, guys, as much as possible, 2 workshops a week, and if you can schedule for the rest of the month. The reason why this needs to be done this way is because when they see that there is a program ahead of them, they will stick to the routine. They will not see it as if it was just a by the way or something that's being asked from them because they have nothing else to do. You have to make it look like it is part of what we're doing today. Second one, and this is what I've been doing for my employees, now is the best time to finally clean up every database, every folder, every inbox that you have not been working on for the past 28 years because you always give an excuse to yourself that you're too busy. And so ask them to clean their file. I'll give you one example. We only did this 2 weeks ago. I was finally able to clean, organize with color-coded rows and columns, a database of all our clients, which we had before, but it was all over the place because we had it in different files and we had it based from different employees. Now we were able to sort it out. And this is something that is very cathartic because once COVID-19 is done, we have a more robust database of our reports. You can do the same thing for your employees. A third one, and this for me is hitting 2 targets with 1 stone. You can push them to organize a help drive for COVID-19. I don't want to spend too much time on this, guys, but the idea here is, hey, it helps people understand that even if we are at the more fortunate, blessed position, it doesn't mean we can be in touch with reality. Finally, and here's my other favorite one, you need to start tasking your employees to look for plan B, plan C, and plan D scenarios in case you all need to shift digital or in case your company needs to change your business model because the economy has also transformed. So task a plan for your maximizing your unsold products and services. Are you now going to shift from having a brick and mortar store to having a lot of sales happening online? If you're offering services, are you now going to be doing a lot of webinars, for example? Finally, number 4, as I end, leaders are cheerleaders. So I've been saying that a while ago. So this is the time now to increase playtime moments as a team. This is a very familiar photo. This is how Zoom works when you have multiple people present. And this is the time we're in as a leader. And I don't want you guys to only push this to HR. You also need to take responsibility creating your own. you need to have sample bonding experiences that you can do, whether it's on Skype, it's on Zoom, or Facebook Live. Here are some examples I've been seeing worldwide. One could be a show your lunch plate meeting. And I've done this, I've seen from other companies wherein they will have a meeting during lunchtime and they will show their plate and this is what I'm eating. The reason why we do a lot of sample personal bonding experiences is because we want to comfort each other that we are here not just because we need to work, but we're here to comfort each other personally. And so that connection is important for the team cohesion to not to fall off. Another one, show your work from home station, which I really love. We're doing a contest like this next week in my Facebook fan page. So people take photos or show on their video screens how their office from work from home stations look like. Another example would be an online Bring Me contest, which I've been seeing many, many times on Facebook already. A lot of companies are also doing this. And finally, here's one more. We've done this exercise with some of my folks. A pinky swear, I promise to blank exercise during quarantine, and that after 2 months or 3 months, we're going to see and take each other accountable if they have accomplished their promise. There are many other bonding experiences you can guys do online. The point is, you cannot keep on communicating to your employees only on a work basis. You have to put personal bonding experiences because that's the only way to make sure that you feel connected with each other. Remember, you have already lost so many opportunities for physical bonding. You can't eat lunch at the cafeteria anymore. You can't have coffee in the morning anymore together. They have to be replaced with something that is tangible, that makes them feel that they are together. So when Irish, for example, says we're going to have a coffee break for 2 to 3 minutes, it doesn't mean that we're going to give you Starbucks into your doorstep. It means that we're going to take our own personal break time so that we can have our bio breaks and go back to our screens as well. And with that, that's my tip number 4. Let's do a last poll before we end our session. Let's show this, Jeff. I'm going to end with this last poll. Or I think that was the last poll, Nano. I think that was the last poll. Yes, that was the last one. All right. I'm going to end with, I still have one more. Sorry, I keep on forgetting this part. I added this last minute because someone was asking about Slack. And someone also was asking about Zoom. If you're a manager, I want to teach you some quick tips on how you can automate your managerial duties when under quarantine. So one example would be schedule your emails. Gmail and Outlook have buttons wherein you can schedule an email to be sent. I do this all the time. Every Wednesday and Friday, I schedule an email to my team that shares a story about a client or shares a video about our business that can teach them about something. So I see it as like remote mentoring because even if I'm not there, they can read about something that can make them better. I schedule the emails, right? Another example would be if you think that your team is already overloaded on a Tuesday, but you need to share another task to them and you don't have time to write this email tomorrow or next week, but you have spare time today. You can type up that email now, click the button, and schedule the email so it can be sent next week. It saves you time, plus it gets the job done. So schedule the email. Another one would be, and this, I also love this, instead of setting deadlines to team by reminding them via WhatsApp, I use a calendar invitation as the deadline. Why? Because when you send the calendar invitation and you say, Project Jonathan, deadline is on April 25, when they hit the yes button, it goes to their calendar and they get constantly reminded about it. Plus, they have no excuse that they forgot that the deadline was on this day. And finally, because all calendar invitations have their own alarms, they will keep on reminding that person 1 day before or 30 minutes or 1 hour before. So it saves you time from having to nudge them. Third, Google Drive. I'm not going to repeat this again because I mentioned it a while ago, but Google Drive is the best folder that allows you to share files without having to talk to each other. So Google Drive is where you can store your PDF, Word, PowerPoint, videos, music, etc. See it as like a thumb drive that you don't need to possess physically. And rather, you can just access it online. As long as you can choose which people can have access to it, people can have access to it. And the best part is, you get to see the timestamp and the name of the person who accessed the drive. So there's no excuse if people are lying and that they said, I did not get the file. This is better than emails, because when you send an email with an attachment, people will say, I couldn't find the email, and that they will make an excuse and say, it's in my spam inbox. Google Drive is different. The moment that you have added someone's email address in a Google Drive, they are documented that they have received the file, right? And finally, here's my favorite one. There are many apps that have been existing since 2015 and 2016. Examples of them are like Trello and Slack. And these are platforms wherein, without having to talk to each other or conduct meetings, you get to track the progress of the projects of your team members. So some of you may be familiar about this, but for those who aren't, imagine Slack as like WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger on steroids. The moment someone accomplishes task number 2, it will be automatically notified in the dashboard. The moment someone uploads a document, everyone gets notified that someone uploaded it. The moment someone submitted a finance or paid a bill, everyone gets notified about it. So these are really very good apps because you don't need to nudge or you don't need to ask people what's happening. And instead, they are automatically visible to you. What does this mean? It forces people to trust each other because you cannot anymore slack off. And that's why it's called Slack, because you have someone watching over you, and the policing becomes automatic as well. All right. And with that, I am going to end this session. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. I'm going to end the session before we do a break. If you guys are interested, please do get copies of our best-selling books, now available in digital formats, and currently have a 50% discount for anyone who will get them at our store. That's our store there below, and you can access them anytime. Thank you.
Okay, then this is not yet the end of the e-learning session. John, we will still have the question and answer portion, but before that, we'll have a quick break. So please stand by. For our viewers, FB Live viewers and Zoom viewers, please stay tuned because we will be right back.
I'll see you guys. Bye.